on the road again. We can't wait to get on the road again. Telling stories to our family and our friends. We can't wait to get on the road again. On the road again. We can't wait to get on the road again. Telling stories to our friends. We can't wait to get on the road again.
Welcome to our monthly AAA podcast, Affinity, Allie, and Annette on the road to good storytelling with your hosts, Allie Spooner and Ma. Allie, want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Allie Spooner. I write with Affinity Rainbow Publications with Annette, and I have written over 40 books in a variety of different genres and, standalone series. We've done some collaborations, and I welcome today, and I hope you enjoy our readings.
Great. And I'm Annette Morey, and you've heard from me too many times, so I won't go in a big long, but I'm also with Affinity Rainbow Publications. And we're super, super excited to have Jen join us today.
Happy to be here.
So this month, we're going to be talking about sapphic fiction romance with a sports theme. Love our women in sports, don't we? The very popular Jen Lyon, who wrote the breakout series, The Senator's Wife, is here today with us. And I'm not really sure, I'm not sure which reading on which book you're going to do today, Jen.
I'm actually going to do from The Unfinished Line, which is my most recent publication.
Right. And it has some characters from the Senator series, right?
It does. And it's very sports related as well.
Yes. Biking. Yeah. So let me go ahead and introduce you, Jen. Jen is an avid lover of sports, travel, theater, and the ocean. When she isn't writing, Jen can be found sailing, browsing the shelves of her local bookstore, cheering ardently at an NWSL soccer match, or training horses at her Southern California horse ranch, where she lives with her wife, Donna, and their dogs, parrots, and horses. Follow Jen on Instagram, where she unapologetically spams her page with photos of her travels along with her life with her Dachshund, corgis, horses, and obscenely large Maine Coon cats. Jen's current published works include the best-selling series, The Senator's Wife, and the critically acclaimed literary fiction novel, The Unfinished Line. Her 2/25 release will be the prequel to The Senator's Wife, titled The Colonel's Daughter. So, all right, you're on, Jen.
So without further ado, Jen, take it away.
Thank you guys so much for having me. So today I'm going to read from The Unfinished Line, since it's my most recent publication. And it's a love story between two women again, as is The Senator's Wife. And I'm going to read from pretty early in the book. The character, Cam Cameron, is actually, she met a woman in Hawaii that they kind of hit it off. And she's flying now. She discovered that this woman, Dylan, has a race in Florida, and she's flying out to see her, but she's made up the fact that she has to go to Florida for work. She's actually just going to see her, but she didn't want to admit that. So I'm going to read. It's kind of an amusing scene. I'm a terrible reader, so just bear with me, even though I was a theater major. But it's kind of an amusing scene, and it's scene 9 from The Unfinished Line. So there weren't a significant number of things in life that terrified me. I had always been adventurous, even as a child. I didn't mind heights. I loved swimming in the ocean. Every spider I'd ever come across in my apartment, I gently trapped and relocated outside. There were, however, 3 things I was not fond of. 1, planes with fewer than 4 engines. 2, planes flying over water. 3, planes flying in heavy wind. Okay, fine. Planes flying. Planes flying as soon as they left the ground. It wasn't one of those terrors so overwhelming I couldn't fly. I flew a lot. And I know my a lot was about to quintuple or sextuple or whatever mathematical multiplication meant. My time in the air was soon to increase exponentially, but I didn't like it. And I admit, I'd grown accustomed to downing Dramamine, like it was going out of style. Nor will I deny irresponsibly chasing it with a shot of vodka if the slightest hint of turbulence arose. Whatever it took to put me to sleep, as the steel death rocket hurtled at breakneck speeds 7.5 miles above the clouds. But still, I flew. Even in twin engines, the unfortunate majority of all commercial aircraft, even in the wind, and more often than not, even over large bodies of water. However, when I stepped onto the tarmac to catch the last minute flight I'd booked to Key West, I skidded to a halt so hard the family of four in matching I Heart Miami t shirts piled into the back of me. I don't know what in the Indiana Jones relic archive was sitting in front of me, but the brightly painted prop plane was not part of my future. This was where I drew the line. I stumbled aside, allowing the other 11 people on my scheduled flight to go around me. They were welcome to test their death-defying fortune and pulled my phone out. I quickly scrolled American Airlines, United, Delta. Nothing. Nothing until tomorrow morning. Shit. I'd already told Dylan I was catching a flight this evening. After Hawaii, I couldn't imagine standing her up again. But I also couldn't fathom stepping into a fuselage the size of Danny's Rover. I looked up the ferry. 4-hour trip. Okay, not bad. I clicked book now. Double shit. Next departure tomorrow morning. I considered running back up the steps to the terminal and renting a car, but realized my license was in the backpack I had willingly handed over during check-in. Something about space saving. I should have taken that as a hint. Miss? I looked up to find a man in a suit peering out the cabin door. The flight attendant. No, God help me, the co-pilot. The co-pilot was seating passengers on this Lego-sized rust rocket. Care to join us? In what, death? The windsock and the flagpole was beginning to flutter, the breeze fanning my burning cheeks. Stone me. I don't know what the hell was wrong with me, but my feet started moving against my will, forward up the rickety six-step ladder and into the cramped cabin. If part one of this trip hadn't already proven I'd lost my mind, there was no question now. I sank into the last seat available and clipped my seatbelt, all the good that strip of nylon was going to do me, forcing myself to try and breathe. It would be okay. I would be okay. Everything would be okay. Thousands of these puddle jumpers flew safely every single day. Well, except for the ones that didn't. Just ask John Denver, Patsy Cline, Jim Croce, James Horner. It's okay, I wasn't famous. The gravitational pull of the Earth only seemed to want the talented elite, right? I looked over the head of the grinning silver-haired grandma sitting next to me, trying to see out the window. Exciting, isn't it? She had a Midwestern accent. It's like stepping back in time with Amelia Earhart. Lady, I wanted to say to her, don't you know they never found her body? Instead, I closed my eyes and wondered who would be cast as Addison Riley after they dragged my lifeless corpse from the sea. And that's the scene I'm going to read for you guys today.
Okay, that's awesome.
Oh my
Have
gosh.
have you ever flown into Key West? Have you taken that flight?
I have, yes.
Okay.
Puddle jumpers. I've also done Alaska on puddle jumpers, so it's good
Did you
times.
kind of get the sense that when you were flying over the water from Miami to Key West, they were almost like mountains underneath the water with all the different reefs?
Oh, and it's gorgeous. The
Yeah,
coloration,
yeah,
exactly. Like, I mean, it's incredible, and it's stunning.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, I've done that, and like I've done a lot of puddle jumpers in my life, and I'm not a huge fan of flying myself. So, c'est la vie.
Gosh, the first time I ever flew on one of those tiny little planes and they asked me how much I weighed, I thought,
Right? What
Yeah.
are you getting into here?
I'm thinking, is there like some kind of limit or something? And you know how women, they never tell you the right weight. I'm thinking to myself,
Yeah.
I'm
You're
thinking
like,
to
I
myself,
hope everybody was honest. Please, everybody have been honest.
I'm just going to give them an extra 10 pounds just in case here, you know?
I used to fly in search and rescue in helicopters, and we had to write down exactly how much our backpacks weighed. And that it just never made you feel good because you're like, so if I was off by 5 pounds, are we gonna have a problem? Because that's not a good feeling.
They
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
they like direct you to the right side of, you know, that they like
Yeah,
you
they
go sit
even
there and
everything
get
out.
this weight
Yeah.
distribution. And I'm like, oh no. Yeah. It was I don't like the little ones. I just was in Fiji and we took a helicopter or we were supposed to take a we took a helicopter and we took a plane to one of the islands and it was cool
Oof.
though. I mean, seeing
Oh,
those
Yeah.
it's so fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Once you get over that initial fear, it's like, oh wow, this is pretty cool.
Now it's gorgeous, exactly. But the
Yeah.
the initial takeoffs and landings, I'm like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Those
forgot,
those are
Jen,
always fun.
I forgot, Jen, that the unfinished line was told in first person. The
It's,
Senator's
you know
Life
what, it's,
series is not, though, right?
and actually the unfinished line is unique in that it's told from the point of view, from Cameron's point of view, it's in first person, and from Dylan Sinclair's point of view, it's in third. And I did that for a reason, which people find out throughout the book. But so it is, it's kind of
Yeah.
strange in that sense.
Okay.
Yeah, yes, yes. You find that out in the first person in the end, that heart-wrenching end.
Yeah.
Okay, so Allie, are you ready? Are you ready to read us something from Nothing But Net?
I think I am. I'm
All
reading
right.
from Nothing from Net, but Net. It's my most recent publication. It came out July 1st. It's soon to be coming out in audio. It's a kind of a lesbian love and basketball second chance type book. And I'm a couple chapters in, and I wanted to share a little bit of Hunter's travels. Uh, After a lengthy stay, she is once again a free woman and is trying to find out who she is and where she's going in the future. And one of the things that she wants to do is to reconnect with her first love. So she ends up taking her motorcycle across the desert, through Utah, different places, and she ends up in Las Vegas where her previous girlfriend is playing professional basketball. So here we go. Hannah was nervous when she pulled into the lot at Michelob Ultra Arena. The moment she had waited so long was about to arrive, and she was anxious about her interaction with Carson. She wouldn't blame Carson if she turned her away, considering how Hunter had broken off their relationship, but she hoped for at least a lukewarm reception. Hunter had paid dearly for her behavior and wanted a clean slate in order to start fresh. Mending things with Carson was a big first step. After parking her bike, Hunter secured her helmet and walked toward the ticket office to claim her pre-ordered ticket. She had arrived early, hoping to watch Carson's team warm up before the game. Hunter wasn't sure how she would approach Carson and would let that reunion wait until after the game. The office was busy as fans filled into the arena. Hunter picked up her ticket and walked inside to find her seat. She had purchased a spot close to the players' bench to allow for an opportunity to communicate with Carson after the game. Hunter was surprised when her seat was 3 rows behind the players. A few of Carson's teammates were already on the floor stretching when she took her seat. Her heart was hammering in her chest when Hunter saw Carson and a teammate walking out of the tunnel toward the court, talking animatedly. Carson was even more beautiful than she remembered. Her blonde hair was still curly and just below shoulder length, but she knew Carson would pull it into a small ponytail before she hit the floor. When they arrived at the bench, Carson looked up and her deep blue eyes locked onto Hunter. Hunter watched as Carson's hand flew to her chest and her teammate asked if she was okay. Carson did something that Hunter would have never expected in her wildest dreams. Carson parted the chairs and climbed over the railing, rushing to meet her. Carson enveloped her in a powerful hug, and Hunter could tell that Carson was crying. When she pulled away from the hug, she wiped her face. Hey, you. Hunter's knees felt weak. I hope it's okay for me to be here. I wanted to have a chance to talk with you afterward, if you're up for that. Maybe over coffee or something stronger. Carson grabbed her for another hug. Of course it's okay for you to be here. I hoped one day we would meet again. Wait for me here after the game, okay? I will, Hunter finally smiled. It's so good to see you. You look terrific, Carson said. Thanks. You look beautiful, and I can't wait to see you play. I better get back down there. Promise you won't leave? I promise, Hunter replied. She settled back into her seat, wearing a big smile from the reception Carson had given her. I did not expect that. When Carson returned to the court, she was approached by an older woman whom Hunter recognized as the head coach. She spoke to Carson briefly, nodded, and looked back in Hunter's direction. Carson nodded again and began a shooting drill. Hunter found she couldn't pull her eyes off Carson. Watching her warm up brought back so many memories of the short time they had played together. They had been rivals in high school, but their attraction instantly sparked when they got to college, and they soon became lovers. They had only been together a few months before Hunter's world was turned upside down. That painful memory made her heart ache from loss. She had noticed that the arena had filled rapidly, and the crowd booed when the team from Chicago took the court. Hunter glanced at the opposite end of the court and briefly watched their opponents. She knew it would be a hard-fought game, but she was confident Carson's team would win. The teams returned to the locker room before the start of the game, and Hunter purchased a soft drink from a vendor and settled in for the contest. Las Vegas won the opening jump and never looked back, sinking the first 10 shots they took. Carson's laser focus on the game enabled her to find open players for easy baskets as the defense shifted to keep her away from the three-point line. Hunter knew that eventually the opponents would have to drop back on defense, and then Carson would light them up. She had witnessed it on so many occasions and felt proud of her friend. Carson hooked up with a power forward for some easy baskets, and the defense shifted. Hunter looked at the program and learned that the player was Michelle Thomas from Oregon, a tall drink of water at 6'5" and not hard on the eyes either. Hunter found herself chuckling at the thought. She was attractive, though. Hunter wouldn't deny that. The woman had some moves, too. She seemed to be Carson's favorite target as she quickly threaded passes through the defense. By halftime, they had pulled in front by 10 points. Carson smiled as she walked past on her way to the locker room. Carson wasn't the only one smiling. Michelle looked in her direction and flashed a brilliant smile. Did I imagine that? Hunter took advantage of the break to go to the restroom and stop at concessions. The aroma of the soft pretzels was too tempting to resist. Her mouth watered in anticipation as the vendor handed her the treat. She hadn't thought she was hungry until she took the first bite and considered returning for another. Lunch had been a long time ago, and she had been too nervous to eat before coming to the arena. Maybe she and Carson would go for a late dinner after the game. Carson's shooting caught fire in the second half as she drained shot after shot beyond the arc. The player guarding her was obviously frustrated by her inability to stop Carson from scoring, and Hunter felt sorry for her momentarily until she gave Carson a hard shove, sending her flying across the court. The crowd roared in protest, and Thomas stormed across the court and rushed at the offender. A cooler-headed teammate caught her before she could light into the defender. The referee issued a flagrant technical foul as another player helped Carson to her feet. Carson winked at the player, walking to the foul line to shoot free throws. Hunter laughed. That was so vintage Carson. She drained both shots and inbounded the ball to Thomas. Thomas passed the ball back to her, and Carson launched a long three. The crowd erupted as the quarter ended, and they were up by 20. Carson was rested for most of the fourth quarter, but entered to score another 5 points, which Hunter later found to be her season high of 35 points. Carson shot Hunter a thumbs up when the game ended and made her way to the tunnel. She was surrounded by young girls who wanted her autograph, and Carson took time for each of them. Hunter rested back in her seat while she waited for Carson. The crowd thinned out, and Hunter watched the staff collect the towels and water containers left on the bench. Carson felt an arm around her shoulder as Michelle caught up with her. Great game tonight. I don't know who she is, but you should ensure she gets tickets to every game. She's an old friend from college. We played together briefly. Cute. Was there more than basketball going on? Yes, but that's a long and tragic story. I haven't seen Hunter in 5 years and had no idea she would show up tonight.
Good job. I love that book. I read it before it actually got published, which was great. I have to admit, I am like not very up with women's sports. Like I don't watch women's sports at all, except for like the last game on the, soccer's, what do you even call it? Well, there's the
The World
Olympics,
Cup.
the World
The
Cup.
World
Thank
Cup,
you.
yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I catch that, and then I go, yay, US, go, whatever. But I don't even know what sports are playing now. Is basketball's playing now, right? Is that
Yeah.
right?
The WNBA, softball, soccer. I mean, there's a lot going on right now.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of them.
So with basketball being out right now, this is probably good timing for you. I don't know, Jen, do many people watch like the Tour de France or some of the major bike races? I'm a cyclist
Cycling.
and
Yeah.
I don't watch it.
Yes. I mean, not in our country. No.
Yeah.
Other countries, it's huge, huge. I mean, even like actually almost every other country, it's just not, it's like soccer here. It's just not a big sport for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah,
And
interesting.
then you've got Wimbledon going on too. That just
Oh,
started.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
again, it's such a big draw across I mean, obviously a lot of Americans do watch Wimbledon, but it's not as much as other countries.
Yeah.
I used to catch like the college basketball games, when I was in college for women and for men actually. But I haven't. Yeah, I don't really attend very many events to be
Yeah.
honest.
Yeah.
But queer women do love women's sports, especially soccer or football,
Yeah.
as it's known in most parts of the world. And of course, I think women's basketball is pretty popular. It's a pretty popular sport.
Very, yeah.
Yes.
So while there certainly are sapphic novels that involve women in sports, you've added other important topics like politics and more recently mental health. Tell us what inspired you to tell these stories that take the subgenre to just a different level, a new level. And then that's for you, Jen. And I have a question for you after Jen finishes, Allie.
Okay.
I honestly, it's just that's what interests me. I like a novel that I read a lot of literary fiction. That's what I grew up on, and I really like a novel. I enjoy a good romance. Don't get me wrong, but I really enjoy something that entails more than just the characters getting together. I love including like hot topics that are current at the time, like again, like politics, mental health, and just like the shape of the world that it's in at the moment. So it's what interests me, and it helps build a really good story, in my opinion. It's what multifaceted is just what I think that a lot of readers enjoy as well, and it just kind of brings together something different to the genre.
I totally agree, and I love the politics in there. Allie, how about you? Are there other subplots that you would say in your sports novels? Because I know this isn't the only one. You've written other sports novels.
Yeah, I've done some the Gator Girl series had a
Yeah.
softball player in it, and it's just I think this one was a little different because of the trauma experience from the get-go. And I wanted to try to bring out all the feels in this book, and keep it a romance as well, but really focus on some sports. And I have to give a shout out for Sophie Cunningham right now, and from the Indiana Fever, because she's become Caitlin Clark's enforcer, and it couldn't have been any better timing for the scene I just finished reading, because Michelle is a
Yeah.
lot like that. Yeah.
I
So
I've been reading about that. Now, I mean, I don't I don't really watch the games, but I have been reading about the
yeah.
controversy over the whole sort of fouls that I guess are getting out of hand, right? Is
Yeah,
that
Yeah.
yeah, I think her followership is jumped like 500,000 people since she really stepped up for Caitlin during the Connecticut game. And it's just there's just so much bullying that's going on, that just the refs need to just really take it down a notch and
and
keep
They're
that
way
something
too
like that going
soft.
on. Yeah, it's just gone too far. It's gone beyond entertainment. Yeah.
right. Well, yeah, I mean, there was initially some, I've read about that, the whole sort of picking on Caitlin, and there was initially some sort of what assumed jealousy or something because she sort of just burst into the media as
Right.
a basketball darling. And there were so many, I guess there's been so many other greats before her. So
Yeah.
people weren't, they were like, yeah, welcome to the big time. But
Yeah.
yeah, it sounds like it's much worse than it's ever been, that they're allowing stuff that they probably shouldn't allow.
Yes, most definitely. I mean, a little initiation or hazing is to be expected of any rookie, but they took it way too far last year. I mean, to the point where people were getting injured, and that's just not the level of the game there.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, be interesting to see what happens with that.
Yeah.
So, Allie, you're not only a basketball super fan, but despite your height, I'm just teasing. You've played the sport legit, right? Like, tell us about that.
Yeah, I actually basketball was my first love in high school. And I played a year in college. and then had some knee issues. And I realized all too quickly I wasn't talented enough or smart enough to do both at the same time. So I decided it was time for me to put basketball aside and focus on studies. But, I loved it. I was born too early for the 3-point line because, my great height of 5 foot nothing, the further away from the basket I got, the better my shot improved. Although I did have a nice little baby jump hook that I used it once or twice during the game. But I loved it, and I'm very proud of where it's become as a sport in America for women. It's just fantastic to see a professional league that's really continuing to grow. I was disappointed that Nashville didn't get a team, when they announced the expansion. That they're all up north, so the closest I can get to see a team is in Atlanta. So that was a disappointment, but they've really taken the sport to a new level, and I couldn't be prouder.
How about you, Jen? Tell us about your experiences with sports in high school or college or
I played actually I played softball all through like from the time I was in t-ball all the way through college. So that was fun. But I was a catcher, and but outside once I finished up with school, I kind of turned toward triathlons, cycling, swimming, and so that's kind of where I ended up going because when I was I was born in '84, and even then, professional women's sports just that was nothing you could grow up and say, "Hey, I'm going to be the next Jenny Finch." Like there wasn't that
Yeah,
option.
yeah,
So what's changed today is just incredible. I mean, there's little girls all over the globe now that can say, "Oh, I'm going to be a professional athlete in X, Y, or Z when I grow
right.
up," and they're not messing around anymore. It's not a pipe dream. It's reality. So it's incredible to
Mhm.
see.
It is. Their softball is now professional, right? Is that a
Hmm.
Yes,
professional sort?
yes.
So there's basketball, softball, soccer,
Baseball starts next year.
baseball.
Yep.
Wow.
Yes,
Yeah,
So
yeah.
hockey.
Hockey, yeah,
hockey.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's very cool.
Rugby, there's a little bit
yeah,
of everything. Yeah.
Is rugby
yeah.
a professional sport for women now?
Yes,
It
yes.
sure is.
Is it? Okay, now I played rugby, believe it or not. I know. I know, look at me. I was a winger. So I was out on the end there where all those big burly women protect the little guy, little guys at the end. It's a fun sport and I think it's kind of fun to watch actually, but I
Yeah.
haven't really
It's a
ever seen
wonderful sport.
women's rugby on TV. I've only seen men's.
Yeah.
Oh, you should. I'm sorry, I'm going to mispronounce her name. Ilona Mayer.
Yeah.
Allie, you're going to know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
You should look her up. She's incredible in that. She has done for Sevens rugby. She's done what Caitlin Clark has done for the WNBA.
Okay.
And
Absolutely.
she's fascinating and she's funnier than all get out. And so again, in the States, we don't watch rugby, but all over the rest of the globe, it's pretty popular, even for women.
Yeah.
And we're getting more popular by far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, sevens
And
is
I,
a
I
really
think that's
fast
a
game. It's a
yeah, I think
really
that's a
fast
lot
game.
of due to her. She
Completely.
tries to keep the feminism in it. I mean, she's
Hmm.
very well dressed. She's built like excuse me, a Brit
Yeah,
shit house. She's just
she is.
I mean, she literally it takes 4 or 5 people to bring her down. I mean,
Oh,
she's
yeah.
And
just so
she's
strong.
incredible and unapologetic for who she is. I love
Absolutely.
her. I think
Yeah.
she's fascinating.
Okay, got to check that out.
Yeah.
So, what do you think? I mean, I think that sports theme queer novels are super popular. Why do you think that appeals so much to queer women? Because I mean,
I
there can't be that many. I mean, there can't be that many women who are actually in professional sports. Are there that
that
many
are
women that follow it though, you think?
Oh, tons. I mean, I think queer women in sports is actually, I would bet you, I go to Angel City football club games all the time, and I bet you, probably 50% of the team is gay, and then I would bet that at least 70% of the audience, I mean, that come to the games of a 23,000 seat stadium, I bet you 70% are women, are lesbian, sapphic, gay women, how, queerly identified. So
Yeah.
definitely, I think that. And then I think it actually just appeals across the genre. I think a lot of queer women have competed in sports in one way or another. It's competitive, like not obviously there's no stereotypical, queer jock, but there isn't a way. Like you can, especially when you play sports, you can look across the room and be like, oh, there's a PLU, people like us. We've used to tease. So
Yeah.
I think it is pretty popular.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so Jen, your first novel is The Senator's Wife. Wonderful novel. And that was huge success. Other than it being a quality novel, what's your secret? What was your secret to it just being this breakout success?
I mean, I guess I want to, yes, it's all going to come down to partial luck. I spent more than 5 years writing it. So I spent a lot of time trying to make sure it was exactly what I wanted. And then of course, once you publish it, it's still never what you exactly want. You learn that down the line. But I think that I didn't pay for any advertising. Word of mouth was absolutely just the best I ever could have hoped for. And one thing I will say is I did send it out to, I sent hard copies of that book all across the globe to anybody who was willing to read and review it. And I mean, I spent like obscene amount of money being willing to do that. That was my advertising. Instead of spending the money on Facebook or Amazon or whatnot, I shipped the copies of that book literally across the globe. And I'm just asking, hey, would you mind reviewing this for me? I'll say maybe 10% of people actually did that, which, that's kind of what you're going to expect from even if you had paid on a Facebook. That's better than a Facebook ad. You get like 2% of clicks or something. So that really did help. And then just writing something, I wrote what I wanted to read. I looked out into the world and thought, okay, what is it? I didn't know that this entire sapphic genre existed when I started writing that book. I'd read like The Well of Loneliness, Annie on My Mind, things like that. Oh, Sarah Waters books. Aside from that, I didn't even know this was a thing. So I thought, there's a quote that I love by Maya Angelou that is, if what you want to read hasn't been written, then you must write it. It's something I just paraphrased it. I
Yeah.
Yeah.
butchered that, but and that is the case. So I just wrote what I wanted to read, and apparently it was what others were willing to read as well.
Oh, yeah, it was
Right.
brilliant,
Right.
brilliant book. Yeah,
Thank you.
And whenever you see on Facebook, people asking for recommendations for sports romances, yours are always right up there.
yeah.
Oh, I appreciate word of mouth for authors and supporting other authors. Like I always try to support my fellow authors, and the return in that is just so generous. And this is an incredible community for that.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, it is. Allie, you've written numerous sports-related novels centered around softball and basketball. Tell us about those and why you choose those particular sports. Is it because you played both of those sports, or
Yeah.
another reason?
In in high school, I played everything. We had a group of about 10 or 12 of us, and we just went from one sport to the next sport to the next sport to the next sport. And you know, aside from basketball, softball was my second favorite. It's the one I played in later in life, all the way through. When I'm much older than Jen, so, when I was playing softball, we didn't have fast pitch then. It was still the slow pitch and, 10 players on the field versus 9. And, you know, it was just a fun thing to do. When I was junior and senior in high school, we had our high school team, and then we had a local team, we had a county team, we had a tournament team. So, 4 or 5 nights a week, you're out playing softball, on a different team, but it's got the same basic core that you've been playing with for years. So it was just a lot of fun, and a lot of way to travel and see different places and meet new people, and just get out and have some fun. So those were my first two loves as far as sports. I'm trying to expand my horizons, and I'm getting into lacrosse now on a college level, and different things like that, because it is interesting. It's not a sport that I ever played, because we didn't play it back in my day. It was the old women's field hockey back then,
Field
but
hockey, yeah.
it's just there's so much new stuff that's coming out, and the athletes are just amazing, and they're a lot of fun to watch and to root on. I'm just tickled to death. I'm going the end of this month. I'm going to the very first championship game of the AUSL softball, because it's in Tuscaloosa. It's 4 hours from me, and that's the closest they'll ever come, until they expand further. So. I got tickets to that. I'm going with some gal pals, and we're going to have a blast.
Good for you. You're younger than me, Allie, and I remember fast pitch softball in my high school. They had fast pitch.
You were out west.
I was in Midwest.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Down south.
down
Down
south?
south.
Nope.
Yeah.
Interesting.
The men started the fast pitch first, and then later the women's finally slowly started to pick up on it. But I mean, even in the SEC from the college standpoint, they didn't start playing until, you know,
Hmm.
20 years ago, maybe.
Yeah. Huh. Interesting.
Yeah.
So Jen, we know you're a cyclist. Soccer, but soccer, well, how did soccer come about as the major sport in the senator's wife?
I actually haven't played soccer aside from my sister who played all the way through college as well. I think I quit soccer about six. They were still cutting up my orange slices back then for me. So that's about the last time I played soccer. It wasn't, I wish I had, it wasn't a big sport where I was at. So softball was the thing. My high school, we barely had a soccer team. So otherwise I would have loved it because it's my favorite of all sports, realistically. So I've always been a lifelong fan. My sister, who's like 15 years older than me, she played, like I said, collegiate and then has continued to play. She's still plays on a women's league in at the beach area. So I just always kind of stayed connected to the game because of that. So I've just been a lifelong fan of it.
Got it.
Yeah.
So DOS About Publishing, is that a company that you created, Jen?
It is. It was just I needed a handle for what I was going to. I never have any ambition. I don't have any ambition to publish anything but my own work. There's wonderful small presses out there, and I definitely am not one of them because I'm. It's just for me. But Doss About it means it was. We looked at a boat for sale at one point, and her name was Doss About, and I was like, what does that mean? And it meant basically screwing around and doing nothing. And so I know that like it seems like it's perfect for a sailboat, but it kind of just fit. It was funny. We always tease, oh, I'm dossing about. So it's just for my own small print publication.
That's cool.
And so what have been your biggest life lessons about self-publishing that you can share
Oh.
with? And do you have any regrets?
I did. I mean, I pursued an agent I didn't want to go with a small press because I felt like I would do, and no, I mean, there's wonderful, wonderful small presses and zero shade toward that. But I just felt like I would either do best either with a large, like a big five type, or I wanted to publish myself because I'm controlling in that sense. I know exactly what I want in my art. So when I never found an agent that fit perfectly for what I wanted. I queried a lot, and it's something I might consider doing again at some point. But right now, I'm really self-publishing has been a pure joy for me, actually. My wife, fortunately, is an excellent businesswoman, and so she does the details, all the ins and outs of that, and she spent a lot of time researching all of that. But I think that like the challenge initially I think is finding the right people to work with, because self-publishing does not mean that you're not getting multiple editors. It doesn't mean you're not getting cover designers. It doesn't mean that you're not literally sending out for your ARC, whether you use NetGalley or you use, your own ARC team, your beta readers, your alpha readers, etc. Self-publishing does not mean, oh, this book was created just by this one person. You still build your own team that small presses and mainstream do as well traditionally. And so finding those people was the hardest part, and finding a good editor. I went through several editors during the Senator's Wife series, and that was probably my biggest, I don't want to say regret, but my learning experience is like, okay, I could have definitely had a better editor for the first book. And you don't know you don't know who you're working with. You don't know if you're going to have a rapport or not, or you don't know if that's the person that is right for your book. It doesn't mean that they're not wonderful at what they do. It's just you have to find the correct fit.
Right.
And so that was the hard part, and is finding that team. I now have I think by the time I hit the unfinished line, and I feel like I've got a pretty good team together. And that having that solidified is a pressure off of me as far as a self-publisher.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good, good.
Well, you definitely have a winning formula, so don't change it.
No,
Thank you.
yeah. What advice would you have for new authors just starting out?
It's going to follow along those same lines again. It's going to be find the people that you want to work with, find the best editor that you can afford, because editing is not cheap. I mean, we're talking thousands of dollars and upward. So find an editor that the best one you can afford, and same with a cover designer. Find the cover designer that works with you well, that you can express your vision to, but then let them create their art. So I think that is again, it's the hardest part is building your team, and I think also being willing to, like, what your editor says to you, listen to them, because it's hard. It's like everybody jokes about kill your darlings, which is obviously Stephen King said, and it makes, I didn't understand that 10 years ago. I definitely understand that today. Is what's interesting to us is not necessarily always what has to be in that book for your general readership. So learning to accept that professionals know what they're doing, and taking that advice. I think that would be my greatest advice to a new author.
Well, writing experience. What's that like for you, start to finish? Can you tell us about that?
I'm a mess. Nobody would want to be in my head for that. It's a wreck. I tend to, I get an idea, like, either through like pop culture or something. You see, like, oh, this is something big in the globe right now, and you think, oh, what if I created this into this type of story? So I get my idea, and I never have a clue where it's leading or where it's going to finish. Even I'm a terrible I don't outline. I don't do anything like that. I start a chapter, and I honestly don't even know chapter to chapter where we're heading. So I give I'm pretty certain that I give my wife a ton of anxiety, because she is like a type A personality. Of She outlines everything. Everything is color coded, and I'm like, oh, I don't know. I'll finish it in maybe 10 or 15 chapters, no clue. So I just write kind of I used to joke that, it's like, I used to make fun of people that were like, oh, the characters tell me what to write. And you're like, oh, come on, that's so corny. But realistically, the characters really do develop they send you on your own little journey. And I think there's not an
Yeah.
author on the planet that doesn't believe that. So until you're an author, I don't think you have any clue that's a real thing. So that's kind of how I go about my process. And then I redraft and redraft and redraft before it ever sees an editor. And then I have learned to, whatever is redlined, unless it's something extremely dear to me, to take the advice, let it go, and then just, the beta team as much as I can to kind of get feedback and find out where we're at.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we can both, Allie and I are both pansters, big, huge pansters, and
Yeah.
pretty much the same thing. I mean, I literally will hear the characters speaking certain words, and then I have to get up and just type
And do that. Yeah.
before I lose
Yeah.
it.
Absolutely. My notes in my phone are what a mess. I just write down, I'll be sleeping, and I'll be like, oh my God, that right there. I
Yeah.
need to write that down. Yeah. Now, do you guys write in order? Because I can't write out of order. I have to write from page one through page gazillion. I'm
Yeah.
not one of those that can do random scenes.
I can't jump around. I'll make
Mm,
notes sometimes if there's something
same.
I want later in a story. Like you said, I'll jot it down on my phone or a post-it note or a notepad in a hotel somewhere, and just, go back to it or not, because a lot of times, the characters don't want to go in that
You
direction.
never end up there. Right. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. But, it's just something that you think of, and it's great. It's a great adventure to go on.
It is. And if I wrote, I don't know how people can write the scenes, their favorite scenes. I know a lot of authors are like, oh, I write my favorite scenes first. And I'm like, oh, I'd never finish the book, because all my favorite scenes would be written. And I'd be like, never mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I would say 90% of the time I'll write sequentially, as the book progresses, but on occasion, something will, I'll be sleeping or whatever, and something will occur. And I know it's a scene that I'm going to get to eventually. And it's so clear in my head that I actually will give myself a couple and then I'll start typing that scene, and then I'll bring it all back together. So I'll link
Yeah.
them together, but not very often. I'm a very sequential writer as well. I
Yeah.
will, as the story comes to me. So it's really rarely when I know that there's going to be this scene down the road, but I haven't really finished with the scenes before that. I just did that.
Right.
Actually, I just did that with with the book
Time
that
traveler.
that I'm finishing
Yeah.
right now. I knew I wanted to have a scene with the main character saying goodbye to her mothers and her grandmothers and her sisters and stuff. And so that came to me, and I knew I didn't want to lose that. So I wrote that, but I wasn't really prepared to go there just yet because I was still finishing where she had returned to the 26th century and was, going to get debriefed and all of that. And that hadn't finished. I hadn't finished writing that. So I had to go back to that and then bring them together.
No, that makes total sense. And I think it's like, like both Ali and I are saying, even I think that's how we use our notes too, for that same, like I'll write several paragraphs, like, oh, I want it to be like this. So I think I totally can understand that.
Yeah, interesting. So tell us, what kind of complications or conflicts are your favorite to write about?
Oh, I definitely like, as far as something forbidden. I love it when nothing can go smoothly. It's like forbidden romances or forbidden love stories. I definitely enjoy um things that are like I said, outside the genre. They, like we talked about politics, sports, politics, things like that that just complicate matters. I love when characters are from completely different backgrounds, where either where the disparity in, whether it be it like financial or education or cultural, where it's just extremely different, and so that there's a disparity there that creates conflict. I definitely love that. um and I didn't realize it, but I tend to write a lot of like long distance. I don't want to say romance, but a lot of long distance relationship building. I've realized in all four of the current books that that is a frequent thing that I do as well.
So it sounds like your favorite tropes are opposites, long distance. What was the first thing that you said? Where you
Oh, what did I say? I said that when
Forbidden.
yeah,
oh,
forbidden. That's
forbidden.
right.
That's right.
Thanks,
Yes.
Sally.
Forbidden romances. Yeah. And Allie, your favorites are, I know you've said this before, but what, family
Yeah,
stuff?
yeah. I mean, I'm definitely a low angst writer. I'm into the sweet romances and love stories and family and children and that kind of world building. So most of my complications come around family issues. A
Family.
death or something happens, and that's where I try to really put the claws in on the emotional feelings and get the writers interested and involved in what's going on.
And you do it so well. How much of your personal experiences are part of your books, Jen?
I think, they say write what you know, which definitely I add in elements of my life that the sports elements, but I enjoy, like I said, I didn't play soccer. So even though I'm an ardent fan, I don't know the ins and outs of being on the field, and so I spend a lot of time on the research for that because it isn't part of my daily life and it's not an experience I've had necessary, but you can draw from softball for that, and from, even honestly, pretty much any sport, any group sport, or team sport, I should say. So I definitely include elements of my life, but I really enjoy writing what I don't know. The political side of Senator's Wife, I really enjoy because politics are not a thing for, I mean, do I follow politics? Absolutely. But I don't have any experience in politics. And so like in the unfinished line, Cameron is an actress, and even though I was a theater major, but I have zero film experience. I was a theater major. So I like to draw from like the kernel of what my background comes from, and then just expand on it exponentially.
So tons of research then.
Oh, I do. Most of my time is spent on research, ungodly amounts of research.
Yeah, I like the research part. Yeah.
I love it. You learn so many new things. It's exciting.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Works in progress. Tell us about your works in progress. I know that the prequel to The Senator's Wife
Yes,
is
The Colonel's
coming out,
Daughter.
or is it
It's just about finished. Nope, it's coming out. I was actually hoping to have it done by GCLS. I didn't make that deadline. That's the benefit of being self-published, is the only one in trouble is me. So that's coming out. The book is essentially done. It's going through its heavy editing process right now. Its cover's been designed, all of that's ready to go. So I'm probably looking at like an August release for that. And that was a lot of fun. I didn't think that would be it was started off as a chapter for an anthology that I was working on, and turn into a full-length novel. So that was not on the agenda, but here it is. And then I have in progress, I also have Duplicity, which is it's the fourth book technically in the Senator's Wife series that will follow where Whistleblower left off. So
Nice, nice.
that's pretty
Okay.
well developed as under, as well. I also have a entire medieval trilogy written that's just sitting there waiting to be edited. But God, there's only so much. It just everybody thinks like, oh, it just needs to be edited. And I'm like, you have no idea how much work that actually is. I mean, every
Yeah.
writer knows that,
Yeah.
but readers are like, if it just needs to be edited, throw it out there. I'm like, well, it's probably looking at like 2027 at this point. So,
Medieval. Ah, that sounds awesome. So
oh, it's like
you're gonna break
yeah,
from your traditional kind of writing.
contemporary. Yeah,
Yeah.
I originally started as a historical fiction writer. I loved the medieval times. A Mist of Avalon is my all-time favorite novel, except for it just got uprooted by Taylor Jenkins Reid's Atmosphere. But prior to that, Mist of Avalon, that was my jam. So I was kind of surprised that I suddenly had all these contemporary works because that wasn't my thing at all. But here we are.
I love the mini. I just read Bloodborne Dragon series that was kind of set in a medieval, and it's really interesting. So it
Ooh, that
combines,
sounds good.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's good. It
Yeah.
combines like fantasy with yeah, it was quite good.
I love those kind of books,
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah.
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 And Allie, I know you said you haven't been writing much lately, but come
Yeah.
on, you know,
Um, I'm just getting to the point where typing again feels comfortable and not painful.
right.
So I hope to get back into the swing of things later on this summer. I've got three that are in progress. I've got the finally a third cowgirl book that
Oh,
is probably about two-thirds of the way done. And then I've got a follow-up to the Blank White Page with
oh,
the
nice.
Alaskan group. And then I've got a new standalone that I've been playing with. It's probably about halfway done. It's set in Montana and a bison ranch. So it'll be something a little bit different, not intended to be the serious, but none of mine never are.
Yeah.
I hope to keep this one a standalone and we'll go from there. But it's like I
Famous
said,
last words.
Yeah.
yeah, famous last words, yeah. And I'm getting to the point where I'm getting excited about continuing the stories. It's just a matter, picking out which one I think needs to go first. So
I don't know how
I'll
you
be
do it.
writing soon.
I don't know how you write like three different novels at the same time. I have to have a singular focus on one
Oh,
before I can do
Well,
anything with another.
I'm one of
The
those,
only exception to that is I will write shorts, like short stories,
yeah,
when requested for anthologies.
yeah.
If I get a
You
request, I will interrupt for that and write the short and then go back
I'm
to the
I'm
novel. But
I'm one of those
I
crazy
have a start to
writers that,
finish.
listens to the characters. And when one set of characters just kind of goes quiet for a little while and the other ones just really ramp up, it's time to change books. And do the same for that one. And when those guys, slow down a little bit, then go back to
oh
another book.
man.
Yeah. It's just, and sometimes you'll hit on one and it's like, okay, they're not going to shut up until I finish this book. So let me just, power on through and get her done.
Jen, do you write more than one book at one time? Do you? I don't,
Oh
I'm
gosh. No, just even thinking about that gives me nope. I that sends me like through the roof. Like I said, I have that medieval trilogy. I can't even look in its files until I am done with everything on the docket. I can't. I struggle honestly even to read other people's books occasionally. Uh, because while I'm writing, because I am linearly focused on that, on whatever I'm on.
God, I hear you. Even when I took a bit of time. I started this time travel novel, and I took a bit of time, and I practically had to reread the whole freaking thing because I couldn't
Yeah.
remember. I couldn't even remember what
Hmm.
characters' names were practically.
Yeah.
So,
Totally.
I have to do it like that, or I lose it. Even when I'm writing every single day on the same book, I'm constantly scrolling back up going, okay, what did I call that? Especially with this time travel, because I
Yeah.
have all these new terms for
Oh,
things in the
and the
26th
world
century,
building. Ooh, yeah.
and I started like writing them down because I would have to continually scroll up to what did I call that?
Yeah.
All right. Anything else that you would like to share, either Allie or Jen?
A question for Jen. You said you've got a horse ranch and you do training. What kind of training?
I rode hunter jumpers for the first 20 or so years of my career, and then I switched over to cutting horses, cow horses, reiners, all the Western disciplines. I'm kind of back now to I'm back now to I do a lot of the cowboy dressage and Western dressage, and now leaning a little more into my English roots again. But I actually own a ton of draft horses and gypsies. So the Clydesdales, like the Budweiser Clydesdales, and I have Belgians, Percherons, Shires, and several gypsies. And so I deal a lot with the heavies, driving them, riding them. I did jousting for a while, so
Oh,
I
wow.
kind of just switched gears a little bit. It was a little slower, a little more fun. But mostly I did, like I said, I did a lot of cutters, a lot of jumpers, and I have like 20 some odd horses right now.
Well, the most fun horse I've ever ridden was a cutting horse.
Oh,
There was a gentleman that he bred champion cutters in Florida, and he ended up moving to Texas where he was from. But he would leave his stallion behind while he was out doing other shows, and I got to work him. And that is the
oh,
most amazing horse
it's an adrenaline
ever.
rush.
Yeah,
There's not, and for viewers who don't know what cutting is, it's in the horse world. It's that you have a herd of cattle that you go in and you separate one cow out of the herd. It's your herd side. You bring the cow out, and your horse, who does all the work, you're doing as a rider. I don't want to say you're not doing work because you have a lot of subtle cues, but you
yeah,
set your hand down on the horn, and your horse is to show their athletic ability. It's like, and we talk about them like moving like cats a lot because they get down so low, so it's
yeah,
keeping that one cow away from the herd. That the cow wants to return to the herd. So that's what a cutting horse
yeah,
is.
yeah.
My
It's
cat is
fantastic.
down here meowing. He wants to get in on the conversation.
Oh,
Grayson?
Yeah, Grayson.
Yeah.
So, well, with all the horse stuff, you're not writing any farm or cowgirl stuff. It
I
seems
would love to. I want to definitely write a probably eventing is probably what I'll write about eventually. I love eventing, but like it's on the agenda, and I'll get there at some point. I'll come up with a great storyline that I'm hoping that will resonate with people who aren't equestrians. Have you guys read Pas de Deux by E.J. Noyes?
I don't think so.
Oh, yes,
It's
yes,
a
I have.
true.
Yes.
Oh, she nailed it she's the only author I've actually ever written to because, like I said, I was brand new in this and I read that and I was like, whoever this is knows I mean, you can tell, if somebody's a horse person or not. Like, there's no faking it. And I actually wrote to her and was like, okay, you obviously had either world-class dressage horses or something. And it turned out that they bred them and
Yeah.
did, were very involved in that. But so that's a great equestrian book.
Yeah. After the medieval.
After
After the medieval, we're gonna get there. I'm telling you. I keep I have to, if I don't stay on track. I wish I could do like you, Allie, and write a bunch of them at once, but I just wouldn't have anything. I'd have maybe like 10 published 10 years from now, but it would all be on like the same day because nothing else would get done.
Yeah, yeah.
All right.
Understood.
If there's nothing else that any of you want to share, Allie or Jen,
No.
I just appreciate you guys having me. It's been great chatting with you guys,
it
and
has
Yeah.
been great chatting with you, and I
Yeah.
appreciate your willingness to be on. So don't forget to check out our YouTube channel and subscribe next month. We will be talking about mature women with our brand new author, Glenda Poulter. So hopefully you'll join us next month.
Okay.
And with that, again, thank you very much. It's an honor
thank you
to have you.
guys. Thank you.
All right.